Just give it a minute. Hello and welcome. This is Sergio Marrero, and we're here with another episode of RBL1 Live. We have our next guest, Ben Tossell, who is the founder and CEO of Makerpad. Thanks for joining us, Ben.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, for those that don't know about Ben, he's over in the UK. So thank you for joining us today. That's why we're doing our live stream a little bit earlier. Graduate from Nottingham Trent University and also Nottingham Business School, has experience being an advocate and lead of several communities from Product Hunt to Angels List, and then ended up starting Makerpad, which is now a Zapier company. But for individuals that don't know about Makerpad and the NoCode movement, can you share a little bit with the audience? What is Makerpad?
Yeah, so Makerpad teaches people how to build websites, automate their businesses, all without writing code. So you don't need to be technical. Anyone can do it. My parents could do it if they wanted to watch the videos. It's like an educational platform for learning that sort of stuff. We focus right now on one course, which is our sort of no-code fundamentals. It's like a 5-week cohort-based course, and people come in and learn 5 different projects week over week and sort of ship things, and that's how we teach right now. But we've got a big library of tutorials and resources that help people learn all about no-code.
Excellent. And can you share a little bit more about the no-code movement? For individuals that aren't as technical, like how did what is the no code movement? Why, how did this even come about?
Yeah, I mean, it's a strange movement, because when I started doing it, it wasn't anything. It was just, I didn't know how to code. And when I was working at Product Hunt, it's a website where lots of people, like big companies from Google to small indie developers, launch their projects. I was just sort of a victim of my surroundings, and I just wanted to build stuff. I always wanted to build stuff, but I wasn't technical. And the only options at that time, people were always saying, learn to code or find someone technical who can build your idea for you. I just thought they couldn't be the only options. So being at Product Hunt, I could see companies like Zapier, Webflow, Bubble, all these other different website builders launching. And I thought that I can actually use these websites, sort of string a few of these services together and make it look and feel like and work like a real product, as if I'd coded it myself. So I started doing that in like 2017, 2018, did that a lot. I did 50 plus launches myself. And I've built hundreds of websites at this point. And I just kept on tweeting about it, saying, look, I built this thing without code. Hey, this was built with no code. And from there was a lot of interest around what I was doing. No interest in the actual things I launched, but more of how I was launching those things, how I was putting them together. How did I create that thing? So I sort of went the route of those who can't do teach type thing. And I thought, right, the thing that people want to know is how I've done it. So I started recording my screen. I could launch any crazy idea I wanted and just remember to walk people through the step-by-step of what I was doing. So that's sort of how it happened. And then lots of other companies were talking about the no-code movement as we now know it. And it basically just means that it's web-based, browser-based services that you can drag and drop a heading, you can drag and drop a carousel or a gallery thing, and then you can connect that to sign up for an email waitlist, and then that would go into your database, and then that would trigger a confirmation email or a Slack message or something. So there's a bunch of different things that you can do with no code, and it's becoming larger and larger. And I just believe that there's no future where everyone needs to be more technical to do these things. It's always going to be an abstraction of that tech layer. It's going to be more and more like tactile, and everything you look at, kids now with iPads touching things, dragging things around. It's just going to be more of that is going to be into how you can build your own websites, your own software. And I think that's where we are now.
Amazing. And yeah, I've used. I remember years ago. I think it was MIT did a kids game actually. I think it was Sketch that you can like build. You build little blocks and it pulls together logic so
Yeah.
kids understand. And this is like the grown-up version of
Yeah, I
it's
mean,
like how do you build how do you build a business without employing it's amazing now the cost of experimentation has come down, so people can build a lot, like you said, they can build something every day, and build
yeah,
faster and in a less expensive fashion, so for
exactly.
sure.
Yeah, yeah. And I don't think you don't need to understand like those games are always sort of geared towards how you can actually learn the code. But I don't think you need to learn the code.
Yep.
You need to learn the building blocks of what this is a front end because this is the website. This is the database piece that holds this, that, and the other. This is the automation layer that does if this, then that. But I don't think most people are going to need to know how to mimic those things with actual like writing of code.
Yeah, absolutely. And then for you can you share a little bit more of how you started? You were leading community at two very successful communities and efforts, Product Hunt and also Angel List. And how did that branch into you becoming a founder? Did you
Yeah,
did you always know coming in, or
I
or
always wanted to be a founder, a CEO of some sort. I think I originally thought like, oh, one day I'll be a hotshot CEO of some big company and hundreds of people. And now I couldn't think of anything worse than that being the case. So I'm glad that things change and opinions change and you can alter your path as you go through it. But as I was at Product Hunt, I think that's where I was launching these products. So I was leading the community, helping people launch their own projects. And I was one of the community. I was that same person who was on the other side saying, I want to launch this thing and doing all that. So I had launched a number of things while I was there. And I think I was just, I don't think I realized it at the time. I thought I was just exercising my curiosity of trying to build stuff. But I think what I was really looking for is something outside of Product Hunt ecosystem, and my brain would sort of pull that idea and say, that's a really good idea. I'm going to pay for it. You should now jump in and do this full time. I was waiting for like an external factor that would say to myself, oh yeah, this is my thing that's going to work. This is a business now. I can go and do this. I can leave Product Hunt to do that. But it sort of, Ryan Hoover, the CEO of Product Hunt at the time, he had a similar situation a few years ago with his own company. He was working for a company, had the idea for Product Hunt, and was trying to sort of do it a bit, and he felt the pull from other people. And then his boss sort of said, look, you want to go and do this business, like go do it, go and do that thing. So Ryan did the same with me, really. He said, you are looking for your own business to do, like you should go and pursue that. That's what you should go and do. So that's what I did. It took me a few months, many failed things, and like consulting to tie things over in the meantime and everything else. But I think being in that place, you sort of, especially building with no code, you can build a lot of things and you're not as emotionally attached when no one buys anything, because maybe you've spent an afternoon on it building that thing. So it was easier to say, right, back to the drawing board. This doesn't work. Let's try something else. And then there was one thing, the educational side of it. That's where people really started like happily paying for stuff. And I didn't need to push it onto people. There was the scenario was very much like a pull from other people rather than me pushing my thing onto other people. And that was a real like light switch moment for me. I was working part-time for a bootstrapper fund. And Makerpad was one of the companies that would be right for that kind of fund, but I was just sort of helping anyway. And I was doing better, more revenue than most of the companies that this fund had invested in at the time. It was very early. And we had a conversation multiple times, like, do you want to go full time on this? And I was like, I'm not sure yet. Like, I can feel this is a very nice side project for me right now. We were doing 20, 30K in revenue a month. I was like, this is great for me. I don't know if I'm ready. But then signs sort of said, right, this is your time to jump in now. You got to go for it. So that's what I did after like 8 or 9 months of a side project. I raised a small round of funding and then went full time.
Amazing. I like how I call it the side hustle. Like it's got to start as a side hustle, and also thank you for sharing. Like you said, you leap, and it's not just leap, raise, grow the business. There's a lot of iteration to find the right product market fit, to doing consulting, to bridge. There's a lot of challenge in making that jump. Not just, and you're and can you talk, it did and I would say for me, and I don't know if the same thing happened for you, is once you shift into these other companies, you're building community, not necessarily thinking about revenue, and then you shift gears to making something and saying, hey, I need to build community, but also I need to ask them for revenue because it has to sustain. Can you talk about that, that trade-off, that, free, putting free things out there to build the community, but at the same time, like where do you decide to charge to start really testing your hypothesis and making it sustainable?
Yeah, I think looking back on it, it's a simple revenue structure of I'll give you some stuff for free and then I'll give you some stuff, but it's behind a paywall. You see that in the New York Times and Wall Street Journal and all these different magazines and things like that. So I think I saw a couple of developers, like solo developers, who had like I can't remember they called them screencasting businesses. So they did tutorials. Some of them were free to get people in and get people hooked, and then some other videos were more premium. You pay for access for those videos. And for me, there was like the Product Hunt community didn't live in one place. So it didn't live like in a Slack room that Product Hunt owned. Product Hunt actually actively didn't have a Slack where all the people from the community could come in. And I think I did similarly with Makerpad. There was a Slack community, but the community of Makerpad, all of these no coders, it's spread everywhere. And for us, it wasn't about like, we need members of our community to be engaged, sat in the Slack room of Makerpad for 8 hours a day. Like, that is our engaged community. For me, it's, can these people build these things now? Like, it's almost the opposite effect of what something like Facebook wants, which is you to be scrolling all day and be on there all day. For us, we want people to be building their stuff all day, dip into Makerpad, figure out the thing that they need to get, like, to figure their problem out, and then go off and do that. And then they go and tell people on LinkedIn, on Facebook, in real life, on Twitter, anywhere. They go and say, like, oh, I built this thing. How did you do it? I did it with no code. No code comes back to Makerpad. Like, the community is everywhere. And it's like a group of people around a shared interest. And we don't try and own the community of no code. But as long as that community is growing, and we are always in that conversation around what no code is, where is the best place to learn it, who are the right people to talk to around no code, like, as long as those things are happening, that we think we are doing our job well.
Excellent. And can you share a little bit as well in that building the no code community? I know that now you all are a part of Zapier. So how did that happen? You're building this no code community, it takes off, you jump in full time, and then now Zapier comes and acquires Makerpad, and you're building there. Like, can you walk us through some of that journey?
Yeah, so we had a partner program, is what we called it. And when you're a CEO by default, because it's your own project, you notice a lot of these things are just made up words that other people may have done. So we had like relationships with these big no-code companies, Typeform, Zapier, Webflow, Bubble, where we would do tutorials on using their tools and show people how we did build a website with Webflow, or we built a database with Airtable, or we built an automation with Zapier. So we had some relationships there. I met with Wade, the CEO of Zapier, in 2019. Literally just as I started going full time. It was a NoCode conference in San Francisco. I met him. I'd spoken to him a few times on Twitter, and we were at a dinner together with a few other people from the community. And we just sort of kept tabs, or I guess Wade kept tabs on what Makerpad was doing. And then there was a tweet one day from someone called Walter Chen, who said something about like NoCode is going huge. Like someone should buy, he actually said Airtable or Zapier should buy Makerpad as soon as possible. So I always owe it to Walter. I owe him a drink whenever I meet him. So Wade sent me that tweet via email and said, "Did you see this tweet? We should talk about it." So I said, "Okay." And I'd actually replied to the tweet saying it's like picking between your parents when they said about Airtable and Zapier. But then we sort of started talking, Wade and I, around October 2020. I think we had a lot of aligned visions of what we believe the future of this whole no-code movement could be, like where everyone should be able to build their own website, build their own business online. Zapier wants to enable everyone to be able to have the power of automation. And we chatted it over and came to like, just let's team up. Let's do this together. So that's what we did. It's like a 6-month process to do the deal. But now, we are part of the Zapier family. We run independently. We still do our own thing. We have input from Zapier when we ask for it or need it. But it's mostly just, we can just focus on, let's do the course really well. Let's teach people really well and have a really good experience there. And when you run your own company and you're trying to figure out what's next, do we raise more money? Do we need to go more B2B? Do we need to go like way bigger than this? What are we doing? It's like the pressure of every month is new and all of that, figuring that out is taxing. And you end up, I think, doing a lot of different types of projects within the company just because they pay bills. And you can't necessarily say, right, let's focus on one thing and one thing only, and let's do that really, really well. So now within Zapier, we're allowed to do that. That is the one thing we can do, and it's paying off, and we can see the results of that. But that was a very scary moment for us to be able to do before this all happened. So that's sort of how it came about and where we are now.
I love that, especially read a little bit about your, the shift of discipline to focus on a number of things to narrow down on what's important in order to build community and revenue. Can you share a little bit about how did that look for Makerpad?
Yeah, so our partner program was one of those things where we work with these companies. We sort of started off as, we'll make a tutorial using your tool. If you pay us for a yearly fee, get the cash flow in, cash up front, we'll make a tutorial using Webflow, for example. But then that's a very different business than selling memberships to individuals who want to just access the videos. You're sort of like, you have a bit of an agency business then, because you're creating content for a company. You have a membership model that is for your customers. We always did a one-time payment, lifetime model rather than monthly payment plans, because there's just so many. Like everyone already has far too many things they pay for monthly. Netflix, Amazon Prime, all these things. There's just so many other things. And when it comes down to like the education or you're learning about something, if you don't learn something in that month because you're busy, life got in the way, you're busy with work, kids, whatever it is Makerpad going to be the first thing you think of renewing the next month? Or is it going to be Netflix and Amazon Prime that you've been sat there watching the whole time? So for me, I just didn't like that, because I thought our focus would be on churning customers and how we stop that churn happening so much, rather than focusing on, are we doing like good education that if someone signed up for a year or the lifetime, it gives them time. Like when I need to learn something, I don't know this thing, does Makerpad have an answer? yes, that's helpful. And it sort of helps you time-wise. So that's how we started doing things. We had this membership, we had a bit of the partner program, we started doing like challenges. What else did we do? Did all sorts of things. I can't even remember half of them, which is probably tells you volumes of why they didn't work. And I think it's a constant iteration of whenever you're running a company, you automatically go into the mode of, oh yeah, let's try that. Let's experiment with that. That's a good idea. Let's try that. Let's do this. I could see that working. And then it's almost like every 3 months, you need to go, wait a second, what's our real focus? It's getting people into the course. So how is this piece actually driving people into the course? Well, it's not really, but if we do that, then this sort of happens and someone might talk to someone else and they might come back in this way. Like you can really start spreading yourself thin. And we're a team of like 3-4 people to be able to have, like, if everyone's got 3 or 4 things on their own plate, there are too many plates are spinning there. It should be quite focused. And I think you need to do that quite often. And I'm definitely guilty of it because like I've been building things for so long. My natural instinct is, let's build something. Let's build something there. Let's build something there. We can do that. We can do that. So I need to, that's one thing I'm just consistently learning is like you start doing a few too many things, then you got to sort of scale it back and focus.
I agree. I'm guilty of the same thing. So no, it's great to hear. It's what is it? Not alone in it. You are also based outside of London. Can you talk about the desire, reason, rationale to be outside of the UK as you're building this business? How'd you end up there?
Yeah, I've lived in London a few times in my life. I moved out the last time because it was when I was trying to start my own company and I had no money and London was expensive. So I went home to Cardiff, which is where I'm originally from, got back on my feet. And then when things started going well, I could have been anywhere. So it didn't need to be anywhere specific. And I think nowadays, everyone knows that a lot of jobs can be just done remotely. You don't ever really need to be in the same location. And I think lots of people don't even realize that I'm not in the US. But I think that's a good thing. It's like, can we arrange a call? I'm like, yeah, they say 11 p.m. And I'm like, no, I'm in the UK, by the way. That's not how it can work for me. I just think like lots of no-code companies actually recently are I've invested in that have been Europe or UK based. And it's nice to see that sometimes you don't realize until you're speaking to the founder or you have invested, you're like, okay, they are not where I thought they would be. I think that's just going to happen more and more because of people have moved out of San Francisco. There's people, Miami, there's New York, there's just everywhere. And I think that's got to be a huge benefit. It's not, you don't need to be anywhere specific, but there's obviously the benefits of meeting up with people in real life and having that whole actual interaction. And luckily for me, it'll take me like less than an hour door to door to get into London if I need to go meet someone or go to a meetup or any of those things. So I think I got the best of both worlds here.
Excellent. And then you also mentioned investing. For those that don't know, Ben has a rolling fund focused on no code or low code companies. Can you share more of how did that happen and if you want to share on for those that don't know what a rolling fund is and how you ended up investing, being also an investor?
Yeah, so a rolling fund is essentially a subscription-based fund. You commit to 20K for the year, and then every quarter there's a capital call. So someone says, can you transfer 25% of what you've committed for this quarter? And every quarter I had a chunk of money to deploy into startups that I said, this is my thesis. I'm going to invest around no code because I think it's a future and there's so much exciting stuff happening there. So I've done that. I did that for a year. So I started that October last year, and I just felt uniquely positioned to be the right person to do a fund focused around no code. Like I kept on seeing new tools, new companies every day. I was always looped in around, hey, do you want to chat to this person? Hey, this person's building this cool thing. It was just felt like deal flow was everywhere. And it would be a missed opportunity if I didn't sort of try it and go for it. So that's what I did. And I have since paused it for after 12 months. And I'll go into why. But we invested in 50 companies in that 12 months. So that's a lot of companies. It was very small checks from 10K up to 50K checks. Often one of the first rounds because of those small checks as well. But some of the companies we invested in are Circle, Superbase, Stacker, Builder. Like I said, there's 50. There's a lot of them. I need to make sure that they are posted somewhere on my fund site. But the reason I paused it was for like the same reason I mentioned earlier, which is like, this is another plate I then started spinning. It's another thing. My default was like, this, I should do this. I should definitely do this. This is good for Makerpad. This is good for the ecosystem, good for the community. And then after 12 months, I started thinking like, is this good for me? Am I doing stuff day to day, week to week that I'm excited about, enjoying, can put all my energy into? And if I'm still running Makerpad, I've got my own things going on with my life outside of work. I like to tinker and like go down rabbit holes of NFTs or whatever it is at certain times. Do I also then have the capacity to do the investment thing well? And at the moment, I just thought it's not the thing that goes up highest on my list when everything else comes in my task list. So I just said, we're going to pause the fund for now. We've done 50 investments, 12 months. We've had quite a few like big markups. So we've done really well. And it just means that for now, there's no more investments. And then if and when I decide to kick it back up, we'll start again and go for that. So yeah.
Amazing. 50 companies in the space. No, I think the rolling fund model is an innovation on venture capital as well, and accelerates these a number of capital into startups. So
it is. Yes, it is an interesting setup, and like it's good for solo GPs like myself to be able to say, right, I'm going to start this fund. You can start off with 20K a quarter. Then as the quarters grow and your investments, you can publicly talk about them. People can then see, oh, they got into this company last quarter. I want to sign up now. So they can sort of sign up as and when you're going through it. But I always found that it's strange that like the fund has its own timeline because it has a quarter to deploy a certain amount of capital. Founders have their own timeline. And if they're raising with bigger VCs, if you're a small check and they're on bigger terms and they're doing diligence and everything else, like if that could spill over the wrong quarter, you can't plan very well when you're going to close or how it's going to close. And it's either just one of those things you've got to say, well, that's just the case, or you've got to try and figure out a better solution to manage that time and that capital.
Yeah, venture capital, there's a lot of room for innovation within it itself, and that's a whole different subject for sure.
Podcast. Yeah.
Different podcasts. We can, but I would say, thanks to you and a lot of the Zapier Airtable, being like you said, being a small investment team is possible. You could do a lot more, see a lot more, help a lot more founders, see a lot more founders, better connect folks. So it's amazing what you can do now. If you could share a little bit of your insight, where is the no-code industry doing? Like what gets you most excited about what we're doing today, and what do you think will be possible tomorrow that we haven't thought about yet for someone that's an expert and steeped in the no-code space?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of no-code companies are heading in the direction of the non-sexy part of it, which is like how do companies internally do things better? How does the marketing team not bug the developer team every Friday for just one more feature type thing? Is like, how can the marketing team be empowered to build up things themselves, deploy them, have things automated, and have some of that control themselves? And I think there's lots of companies doing things there. And I think there's a big correlation between like creator economy, the sort of alternative funding models there are now. There's lots of ways to fund projects and no code. Like the combination of all three of those, I think means that they're going to see a lot more individuals as a business. Like I could have a business that is, if I was starting again, would I just be the Ben Tossell business? I do some tutorials here. I have my own job board here. I have a course that I sell over here, and I have a fund thing over here. Like you could be the individual as the business type thing. And I think we're seeing lots of that. And even like the Web3 NFT stuff, I know some of the people just don't even think about that or hear about it, but there's lots of interesting pieces, I think, there with creator economy and how people can get paid for contributions, being part of communities and like contributing to other communities. So I'm interested to see how all that plays out, but I think like that will be a bit of a future thing. There's some more steps to be diminished before we see a lot of that crossover. But I think we'll get to a point very soon. I've seen it already where you type in, I want a website that has a header which says this, and it has a blue button that is rounded. And then that will just appear on your page as a website with the header, the blue rounded button. So I've seen some of those things happen already. So it's like natural language creating websites and whatever else. So I wonder what that sort of innovation will open up.
Yeah, excited to see. And do you see or maybe you know the answer to this, but in what ways are you seeing some advanced features, that like even AWS, Google Cloud offer, like from the facial recognition to the databases, like the machine learning being integrated into some of these, no code, low code services?
Yeah, I mean, there's companies like obviously AI, which I'm an investor in, that allows you to like analyze your customers and spit out like perfect personas. Like you're trying to think in your head, oh, our persona is definitely this type of person. We have this person as one persona. This is another one. This is another one. But are you doing that because you're looking through CSVs and spreadsheets of data that you are then making assumptions on, or is it based on like an actual machine learning model that's been proven, that's been built somewhere else that you just need to layer on top of your data? You just export your CSV, add that on top, and then that spits out something that maybe you wouldn't have seen. It might be sort of removing part of the guessing game or the analysis game that individuals who definitely aren't, like I wouldn't be able to go straight into knowing how to analyze a persona and put that together. There are definitely people who've trained to do that and can do that really well, which is probably where a lot of these models have come from. But it means that it's more accessible for more people to be able to do those things and do things better. So I think there's just an accessibility thing of what was once like really highly skilled and you needed a really high technical ability to even touch something or think about it is now being put in the hands of anyone who has access to the internet. So I think that's going to be a huge piece going forward.
Awesome. And what's next for Makerpad?
More courses. We're going to do another one next year, starting in January. We're doing one type of course right now, and we just want to grow that and get that bigger and better. So we're trying to just focus on that. I'm sure I'll get distracted along the way and then pull it back, but that's what we keep doing anyway. So yeah, just more of the course stuff. Great.
Well, Ben, I want to thank you for your time. And for those watching, this was RBL1 Live. Ben Tossell, CEO and founder of Makerpad. Thanks again for joining us today and sharing a little bit more of your insight and story into the no-code movement and Makerpad. So thanks again, Ben.
Yeah. Thanks so much for having me.